Hey everyone, welcome back. Once again, we'll be taking a look at the S&P 500 and Nasdaq futures market. But make sure you stick to the very end of this episode because I have some major announcements about this channel once we're done with our analysis. But let's get started by reminding you that I am not a licensed financial advisor. I don't give out any financial advice. My videos are for entertainment purposes only. These are my personal opinions. Please don't use it to make a trade on your own. So in front of us, we have the dollar index on the monthly chart. We've seen this many times. The only thing I want to point out is that we have already traded into the large SIBI here, but as you know, if you've been following me, I've been looking on the weekly chart for this inefficiency here with the monthly volume imbalance. I'm looking for price to reach up here. But since we have already reached into the monthly SIBI, and we'll take a look at the weekly chart, you'll see that we could be due for some sort of a retracement. Here on the weekly chart, we're going to zoom in here in a little bit, but I want to take your attention to this inefficiency here. So we actually have a large weekly inefficiency between the two green candles, but I'm noting the exposed part between this candle's low and this candle's high. The red box here highlights the only portion where there has been sell side delivery and not buy side delivery. So I'm looking for price to reach up into this area. And if you take a look here, I mentioned before that we could be looking for some sort of retracement. And you'll see that we have 11 weeks of up movement, and this is the first weekly candle in a long while that has closed down. You can see that we've taken a pool of liquidity above this high, a pool of liquidity above this high, and on the daily you'll see there's another small pool of liquidity here that we've taken. So we've taken 3 pools of liquidity, we've had a down close, we could be looking for some sort of retracement. But ultimately I am looking for price to draw back into this SIBI. But in the short term we may have some sort of retracement down, and I want to see some PDA to raise support price and push it up into this price range. So zooming in a little bit, if you take a look, I'm looking for something like this candle here back on the 28th of August. That week, we had price trade down into, I don't have this drawn out, but you can see that there is a small weekly BISI here that price traded down into, bounced off of it, and started going higher. So I'm looking for something similar with this weekly BISI here. I want to see price come down into this weekly BISI and use this as support to push price higher. So something like this where price trades down into it, and then I want to see rejection and send price higher into the imbalance that we're looking for. Now if price doesn't use this as support and it starts going lower, what can change my mind is if we have price trade below this weekly BISI, then come back up to it to use it as resistance. So this weekly BISI essentially turns into an inversion. And then if this happens and I see price coming back down, I'll be looking for price to come down into this second level, the second BISI here. And then I want to see price reject this to launch higher. So the scenario is if we come and close below this weekly BISI, and then we trade back up using it as an inversion, this could signal me that price could be looking for a deeper retracement either here, and if price does the same thing where price goes below this BISI and then starts trading back into it using it as resistance, then we could be looking for price to perhaps take the low down here. So here on the daily, I want to zoom into the last few months of price action here. But before that, take a look at this swing high. So I mentioned that third pool liquidity, we have a swing high here, and you'll see that price just wicked above it and then started rejecting. So let's take a look at what price has been doing down here. Okay, so zooming in, we see price went up to take out that pool of liquidity. Then for the next 3 days, we've traded down. We've filled in this entire BISI here, and we've closed below the body of this down candle. So we see here that there's been a shift in the structure. We did on Friday wick up into a SIBI, rejected. So this is essentially resistance. So I'm looking for price to take out the sell side liquidity below the swing low and into that weekly BISI here. Now the ideal scenario is for price to take that weekly BISI as support and then launch price higher into the imbalance that we've been looking for. Now, I did put out that other scenario that should price close below this BISI and use it as inversion, we'd be looking for lower targets. One target could be the swing low below here and the swing low below here, and there's that second level of weekly BISI right there. So ideally, we just go and touch here, use this as support, and start launching higher for our longer term targets. I don't really want to see price break down below this weekly BISI, but if it does, there is another daily BISI here that we could keep our eye on. But just for now, I'm looking at these two key levels. And then in between here, we do have that consequent encroachment on the weekly tail. So want to keep an eye on how price behaves once it reaches here, if it does go below the first weekly BISI. Here we have the S&P 500, and we're going to go straight into a weekly chart. Now, over here on the top left, I'm just going to make a small drawing just to show you what I'm thinking. For the dollar index, remember I'm looking for some sort of retracement lower into a discount array, and then I want to see price reject it and go higher into our higher time frame imbalance that we're looking for. So on the indexes, I want to look for the opposite pattern. I want to see retracement up into some sort of premium array and use it as resistance in order to go down into our target level. So if we take a look here and we take this diagram, we shift it over here, so you can see kind of what I am anticipating. I want to see price go up to some sort of premium level. Could be the lower portion of this here, which I deem the order block with these two up candles. Now, because this candle, this weekly candle has a really large body, I actually like it better. So I'm going to move the weekly order block up here. So it's slightly above the high of the monthly BISI high, the green lines. But we see that we have a large weekly SIBI here. So if price reaches up into it, maybe 50%, which lines up well with the bodies of these candles here, that could be a stopping point. There's actually so many key levels up here, and you'll see it when we get into the daily. But in here, some sort of premium array, I'm looking for price to go in, reject it, have a market structure shift lower, and then when it comes down, I want to see it reach below the swing low here, and eventually down into this weekly target that we're looking for, where you have the BISI from this to this. And right here we have two relative lows. On the monthly, we'll see that these are separate month candles and we have lows, and these are just two weekly candles that have the sell side below here. So we could be reaching down into that area as well as time progresses. So here we are on the daily chart. I want to zoom in here, but before I do, I just want to point out these are the relative lows that we saw on the weekly and monthly, and you can really see it here on the daily. So looking for price to ultimately reach down below these lows here. Now, I did say that I'm looking for some sort of retracement higher before we drop lower, and we have multiple key levels here. We have this first high right here, but really I want to see it go into that weekly SIBI. And if you look, we have two daily SIBIs here. It's perfectly reasonable for price to retrace up into the first one. So somewhere here, and within here we have 50% of the SIBI. I'm not going to draw all these out because there's so many lines that it's just going to look really messy, but just keep these in your chart. We have half of the daily SIBI here, so consequent encroachment. Remember, we have the low right here and right here that can be traded to. We have the bodies of the candles right here. Now, price could retrace back up into the second CB. If it does, we're looking for that monthly BISI high, the green line right here. This is a significant point. So we could be looking for price to completely close that in once again before coming back lower for the lows here. Also on that weekly, we adjusted that order block. Here we have the order block slightly above. So I don't really want to see this CB here, the higher one, close. I want to see it unfilled. The bottom one, ideally I want to see it unfilled as well, but I can definitely see at least 50% of it being traded to. That is perfectly reasonable. Ideally, I don't want to see it filled in, but I am accepting the fact that we could go up back into the weekly order block. And then after that happens, I want to see a shift in market structure lower, and then I want to look for the relative lows below here as our first objective. And of course, you know we have our longer time frame objectives down here. Here we are on the weekly for Nasdaq, and keep in mind, same as ES, I'm looking for price to have some sort of retracement up, and then I want to see strong expansion down. So taking this diagram here, I could be expecting something like this. We've already started expanding into this weekly CB here, and we'll zoom in to take a closer look. But first, I just want to point out that we have this old monthly low, or excuse me, old monthly high right here. And if you take this out, we have a monthly BISI, and the high is relatively in the middle. We have the weekly BISI here. This is where I'm looking for price to draw to. We've already reached into this weekly BISI, but it's very shallow. I'm looking for a deeper retracement. Now let's go ahead and zoom in real quick. So I'm looking for some sort of retracement back up into the CB. I like to see the CB remain unfilled, meaning it doesn't trade above here. That would be ideal. So we've already kind of traded into the weekly volume imbalance right here. If we take a closer look, we'll see that the high here is 15,106.25. And we see that the close of this candle is 15,161. So technically we're off by 3 ticks. We haven't actually been into this weekly volume balance. I suspect that we will get into it, and I want to see rejection. But we could be staying in this range for a little while as long as we see retracement in the dollar. But I want to see a market structure shift just like ES, and I'll be reaching for the weekly sell side below these lows into this BISI, and I want to ultimately in the long term see price trade into 50%, that old monthly high, and of course, you know I'm looking for price to draw back into this lower BISI here. So going down to a daily, just to keep our frame of reference, down here is that BISI, the weekly BISI that I'm looking for price to draw to, but in the short term, we're going to take a look at our recent price action. I'm just looking for price to go below this weekly sell side here. So zooming in, you can see that we have relative lows. This is going to be our sell side here. I definitely feel like we have unfinished business. Price can reach down here, but currently we are having some retracement. Now we've gone through this daily CB here, and we've traded into the upper daily CB. This is that weekly volume imbalance that we've almost got to. I expect that price will come into here. And Nasdaq is a little bit stronger than ES, so I think it will be okay if this daily BISI gets, or excuse me, daily CB gets filled. But I really don't want to see price close above the weekly CB. If it does, we do have another daily CB here that can be used. So I want to definitely, if price does trade above the weekly CB, I want to keep my eye on this up candle here. I'm going to use this as a propulsion block. And then I see a CB here, and I'll go ahead and just draw that out. And I also want to draw your eyes to these two up candles up here. So I'm using these as order blocks. We have a CB, and then this will be the propulsion block. So ideally, I don't want to see the CB, the large weekly CB, closed in. But if we do, I want to see this propulsion block strongly push price down. And we'll be looking for the sell side liquidity below here. Okay, last thing before we close this out, I just want you to take a look at our last couple of weeks of price action right here. We see that price consolidated some, and now we have expanded up to take out the liquidity up here. And what this looks like, think power of three, right? I'm looking at this as we have some sort of consolidation, right? And then market went up to take out the buy side liquidity above the consolidation. Since our long-term bias is bearish and we're looking for price to draw down, we can expect price to come down very strongly in order to take out the sell side liquidity up here. So price is just going up to go lower. Price goes up, taking out the buy side liquidity. The smart money are selling up here, accumulating their short position, and then when price drive down lower, they'll be covering into a discount area. So something like if you just overlay it like this, you see that price is consolidating, expanded up here, and then we can look for price to drive down lower, probably even lower to halfway or down here to the weekly BISI that we've been looking for. Okay, thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. I do have some announcements for the channel. Next week, before the weekend, I'll be taking a trip to China, and China's relationship with Google and YouTube is not the best. So there will be a lull in the uploads of my video. So please leave a like and subscribe. Make sure you hit that notification bell so when I get back and start uploading again, you'll be notified when my next videos will be coming out. Also, I am working on a big project right now. I am making a video series on back testing. You've heard from other gurus and YouTubers and social media traders that back testing is one of the most important aspects of trading. And they tell you that it's important, but hardly anyone ever shows you how to actually do it. So I am making a video series to show you how to back test and explain why back testing is very important. So again, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know when that is coming, because I think that will really help a lot of you out. So until next time, be safe.